What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I wanted to discuss what's next following UFC 315. I wanted to give it a few days. I wanted to kind of let it stew a little bit, give my thoughts on the main card of the UFC 315 that just passed by, because there are some interesting developments that I kind of wanted to talk about. And in this video, I kind of just want to talk about who these guys should be fighting next, certain people spoiling certain super fight plans, but you know what? It's the fight game. You can never count anybody out. And without wasting too much of your time, I wanted to just hop straight into the main event with Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena. This fight was, okay, first of all, this was a really good fight, right? Probably the most entertaining Belal Muhammad fight that we've ever seen, right? That's just a fact. And Jack Della proved to be the better striker, which we already knew. We knew he was the better striker. We knew he was the better boxer. He showed really, really good footwork. He was actually doing a really good job with his kicks, which is really interesting because Jack Della is usually known as like a boxer, and especially against a wrestler, it's like, why would you want to throw too many kicks when Belal can catch him, take you down on the ground? You know his strength is his wrestling and his cardio and his pace, which was something that was kind of interesting. I was expecting Belal to kind of try to push Jack Della back a bit more, try to push a bit more of a pace, wrestle a bit more in those opening rounds. But Belal started to have the most amount of success when he was mixing up the striking with the wrestling. But it seemed to be like he was kind of trying to prove a point, like his ego was just getting the better of him or something. I don't fully understand it. It was his first title defense. Sometimes when you become a champion, I think that fighters kind of get overconfident and they realize that they've made it to the top now, so they don't have to keep training. Well, sad reality, you do indeed have to keep training. But also the fact that Belal Muhammad's not a young guy, right? I believe he's 36 years old or turning 37 or something like that. So he's not a super young guy either. And, you know, with this loss, it kind of spoils the Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria super fight. However, now Jack Della Maddalena is going to be taking on Islam, right? I think Dana's already confirmed it. So, talking about that fight and breaking down that fight is actually very interesting, right? Because we saw that Jack Della defended almost every single takedown from Belal Muhammad. Now, granted, Belal is probably not as good of a wrestler as someone like Islam, and he definitely does not have as good of top control as someone like Islam. And Islam's definitely a better grappler, better with the submissions and stuff like that. So once the fight gets down to the ground, it's going to be very tricky. However, there is a factor of the size that Islam's never fought at 170. How's his body going to adjust to the new weight class? And the fact that Jack Della is definitely a better striker. He can switch stances. He's a much better boxer, much cleaner boxer. You know, he's showing some kicks in his arsenal even. Islam's really good with, like, his check left hook, or check right hook, excuse me. And, like, that left kick, whether it's to the body or to the head, he's very, very good with it. And I do think there's going to come points in the fight where Jack Della does get taken down. But I believe that we might see something similar to the Alexander Volkanovski fight. And if the Alexander Volkanovski fight is anything to note, then I think that Jack Della is more likely to win because he's just bigger than Volk. He doesn't fight the same way as Volk. He's not necessarily as technical as Volk, but he's got some of that size and strength to counter the wrestling of someone like Islam. So I know that people are very, very hesitant to favor Jack Della, but, you know, there is that thing about the champion boost. When you become a champion, you get 30% better. I don't know if it's true or not. It's kind of hearsay, maybe not a proven fact, but maybe Jack Della will get even better. And he's training with Craig Jones, and, you know, he's training in that Alexander Volkanovski camp, who handled Islam very well in the first fight, and has prepared for him. So they know what to expect out of a guy like this. So I could actually see Jack Della Maddalena winning. Islam, of course, number one pound for pound. Could absolutely win. But you know what? For right now, as an early prediction, I'm actually going to go with Jack Della Maddalena. And as for Belal Muhammad, I say he takes on the loser of Buckley versus Usman. I think that would be good. It's amazing to me that Belal Muhammad and Usman never fought. And I think that if Usman loses, he should fight Belal. I think that's the best pick. And if Buckley loses, again, take on Belal Muhammad. I think that would be a decent enough fight, I guess. Moving on to a bit of a sleeper of a fight, to be honest. Valentina Shevchenko defeating Manon Fiorot. You want to know what's crazy about this fight? Is the fact that Shevchenko was the underdog. Like, there was not a lot for us to have to say that she should have been an underdog, right? She dominated Alexa Grasso in a lackluster fight, but she still dominated her with the wrestling. And, yeah, I know Fiorot's, like, bigger and you're physically stronger than Shevchenko, but Shevchenko is a lot more technical in almost everything that she does compared to Fiorot. And I think she's a bit faster as well. And you can kind of see that in the fight. The way she was able to counter that high kick with the spinning kick was just an absolute work of art. That knockdown at the end of the fourth, it was a kind of meh fight. And, like, yeah, Valentina won, but nobody's going to be, like, amazed with that performance, right? And Valentina Shevchenko, I think she's going to be fighting Natalia Silva next. And I'm actually going to favor Natalia Silva in that fight. The footwork's just too much. The kicks are too much. Valentina's very stationary. So it's going to be hard for her to be able to shoot at the hips of Natalia, because Natalia is constantly moving laterally, side to side, and creating angles for her punches and her kicks. And I think that Valentina's going to have a hard time catching up to her. And even though Valentina isn't necessarily slowed down, she's not necessarily getting old, I just personally think that she's just not that. Like, I think she's only going to decline from here. I don't think there's really any more progression for her to make. So her next fight's going to be Natalia Silva. Should be an interesting one. We'll see how the wrestling plays out. But, I mean, Natalia Silva does have some pretty good takedown defense. So we should see how that fight plays out. And as for Fiorot, I don't even know what you do with her next. I mean, I guess, like, you can give her Alexa Grasso next. I don't think that those two have fought each other. Or, like, you can give her Jasmine Jasdavicius or something like that. Like, but outside of that, like, Fiorot's already fought Blanchfield. And Natalia Silva's next for the title. You know, who's going to fight Macy Barber? No one cares about that. Well, let's just be honest. Nobody really cares about that fight. So I say Alexa Grasso is, I guess, probably the fight to make after that one. But moving on to the robbery of the card. A robbery, I'm telling you. Now, listen, I am Canadian. Nobody wants to see Canadians win on these type of fight cards more than I do. But Jose Aldo versus Ayman Sahabi was a freaking robbery, okay? I'm not usually one to cry robbery. I'm usually one to say a close fight does not equal robbery. But Jose Aldo won the first round handily, right? That's like the most clear round of the entire fight. The second round was closer, but I still think Jose Aldo won. It's just the difference in the power was so apparent, and the pop in Jose Aldo's shots is just a lot different compared to Sahabi's. And that third round is where it becomes very, very controversial, but I still think Aldo won the round, okay? And I'm going to explain this to people, why I think Aldo won the round. He dropped Sahabi twice, rocked him so bad to the point where he was almost unconscious. Now, he was able to survive. Sahabi was very tough and proved that he could survive. And Jose Aldo was gassed. He was so exhausted, he shot a takedown and it failed. And Sahabi was on top, and he was landing some elbows, and he cut Jose Aldo. But how many of those elbows were actually landing? If you go back and look at it, he wasn't really landing that many elbows clean. Aldo was doing a really good job with keeping his hands up and really doing a good job of protecting his head. A few of them got through, but Aldo was defending a good majority of them. And Aldo was never rocked. He was never on the verge of being out. People keep using that he was exhausted as a reason that he lost. But being exhausted in itself does not mean that you were automatically losing. Sahabi, in my opinion, just didn't do enough damage to steal the round back, and he didn't have Aldo almost out or anything like that. I just think that Aldo, with the 2 knockdowns, clearly wins the round. And I think this is a blatant robbery. Jose Aldo's been robbed arguably 3 times in his last few fights, right? Some people think he beat Merab, which that fight is kind of eh. And then he lost to Mario Bautista, which I think he won, and I think he beat Sahabi in this fight. So he's just getting robbed and robbed and robbed. And Sahabi, even though he's Canadian, always back a good old Canadian, I still think Jose Aldo won this fight. And I don't think it was, like, I don't really think it's that controversial, to be honest with you. Now moving on to a decent women's fight, actually. Alexa Grasso and Natalia Silva. Natalia Silva beating up the former champion Alexa Grasso by unanimous decision pretty handily, right? Grasso just couldn't get going. And I could see, watching the fight, that she was having a hard time with the footwork, as everyone else has had with Natalia Silva. She had a hard time really cornering her and getting her in on specific angles. And even when she did finally corner her and start just swinging at her, Natalia Silva would get the better of the exchanges. And Natalia Silva just never gassed out, right? She can do that movement stuff all day, throw those kicks all day. She was clear that she had a speed advantage. And I just gotta know, like, at what point is Alexa Grasso just gonna start mixing in that offensive wrestling? Because she's not generally one to offensively grapple too much. And I don't want to, like, sound disrespectful, but she's kind of the female version of Leon Edwards, right? She wins the title off of, kind of, I don't want to say a fluke, but off a critical mistake that the champion made that would not normally be made, right? Shevchenko threw an ill-advised spinning kick, which Grasso did time and took the back of, and choked out Shevchenko, made her tap. And then she arguably lost the rematch, which was a draw, and then handily lost the third fight. And now it's kind of just turned into, like, she had that one moment, the 15 minutes of fame, and now it's just kind of all she really has to hold on to, but doesn't really do a whole lot inside the fight generally. Alexa Grasso just wasn't offensive enough to get a win. But I also understand from her point of view how tough it must be to deal with someone with the footwork of someone like Natalia Silva. Because you don't see that kind of footwork often. That bouncy footwork side to side. Not afraid to move backwards and counter-strike. And not afraid to move forward and actually throw some shots. But overall, this is a very good win for Natalia Silva. I think she definitely deserves a title shot. There's nobody else to give it to. And I think Alexa Grasso should take on Benoit Fiorot. That's just my opinion. But honestly, I'm going to be honest, I just don't care about the women's divisions too much, especially not right now. There's just not a whole lot of exciting stuff going on, especially the flyweight division. It's just so weak. I just don't think anybody really cares about it right now, to be honest. But moving on to an absolute banger of a fight. Benoit Saint Denis defeats Kyle Proplek by decision, or not by submission, excuse me. I mean, it was kind of to be expected. Benoit Saint Denis kind of fought in the way that he usually does. He's just trying to bully you the entire time, right? That's just kind of the way he fights. He's just a bulldog. He wants to bully you. And he fought a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't fought in quite some time. So Benoit's going to maintain his number 13 rank. And he's in a very interesting position here, right? Because he already fought someone in the top 10. Two people in the top 10, right? Dustin Poirier and Renato Moicano. So I don't think that you give him someone with a massive boost in the rankings or something like that. How would a Michael Chandler fight? Who would not love to see Benoit Saint Denis and Michael Chandler go head-to-head? That would be an absolute war. Chandler throwing the leg kicks, Benoit Saint Denis just trying to bulldog Chandler with takedowns, but Chandler is a really good wrestler, and he might be able to stop some of them, but Chandler's also can get taken down, as shown in the Oliveira fight. Benoit's going to try to bully him on the ground. Chandler's going to try to land that big right hand on the feet. It's going to be an absolute banger of a fight. I would absolutely love to see that. Make that like the main event of a fight night card, because Chandler does not deserve to be on pay-per-views right now. I know he's an exciting fighter, but in his last couple fights, he has just not shown to really be there. Or you can reschedule the Yoel Alvarez fight. But guys, this was my UFC 315 recap and the matches to make following UFC 315. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Let me know who you guys would like to see these fighters face next. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. And if you guys enjoy these UFC-style videos, because I really do love the UFC. I love watching this kind of stuff. And I love making these kind of videos for you guys. So, if you guys want me to continue making them, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace!